And good evening, everyone. Basically, I promised I was going to come on live. It's been a very hectic 3-4 weeks. That past month, I didn't really have time to do anything. I have been inundated. I couldn't just stop to even have time to, do a Facebook Live. I've had so many messages, calls, people asking me questions, people wanting me to talk about a few issues that have been dominating social media space, Gambia political discourse, and people just wanting to know and have answers and understanding as to what is going on. But I've been so busy, and I couldn't. I mean, assume most of you are aware, summer is usually very packed. You have so much activities, things to do. I just didn't have time to actually come on Facebook. But if you can hear me, can you kindly just let me know, because I'm outside. I decided to do this Facebook Live outside because it's pretty hot. So if you can hear me, can you just let me know that you can hear me? And if you, by just way of comment, if you could just let me know that you can hear me, that's one. And two, if you're watching this live, if you could please just share it so that we could have a good reach, so that people can participate and we could have a more engaging discourse. So I'm going to talk about a few issues. The first thing I want to talk about is it's not. Is it 8 o'clock yet? I know I said 8 o'clock Gambian time. I'm not even sure if it's 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. Gambian time, which was 9 p.m. UK time. But the first thing I want to talk about is this the land issue, this whole land wahala that's going on. Between the various political parties. Now it's taking a national discourse. Everybody's talking about it. But the first thing we're going to talk about is we're going to look into that wahala, that issue, that brouhaha that is going on. So we'll look at the land issue. We'll look at the allegation from His Excellency, the former Vice President Lord Darboe, who is also the leader of the United Democratic Party. We'll look at the allegations from His Excellency the President, Adama Barrow, who's also the President of the Republic of the Gambia and also the head of the national, the NPP party. So we'll look at both, and then we'll also go into the seemingly, I don't know, actually, the troubled waters that the United Democratic Party is basically trying to navigate. I mean, having, a lot of discourse that's going on with regards to flag bearership issue. And we've now have a new phrase that's coined winning candidate and things like that. So we'll look at that bit as well. And then it was three things that I wanted to talk about. And then the third one, is also, what has been dominating our political discourse, social media space, is the tenure, the term limit of the president. I mean, there's been called that the president cannot and should not go for a third term. That's against the law. People have said it's illegal. People have said that the president has said that was his campaign promise, and that the world all over, African presidents are now, getting into this term limit issue in the world, not only in Africa, and that kind of thing. So we're going to look at that as well. So these are the three main issues that I'm going to look at. Now, let me put a disclaimer. I know I did this on my Facebook post earlier today, and I made it very clear that if you have a weak heart, or you're a person that you don't want to hear the things that are just, basically the truth, and it always has to be your way or the highway, I think the best thing to do now is to just check out of this Facebook Live, because if you know me and have been following me on social media for a while, I don't sugarcoat things. I go straight to the point. I don't care who's angry. I don't care who's upset. I have no bone in this dog fight. And I just speak my mind based on my own understanding of the law. It's basically my opinion. It doesn't mean that whatever I say is gospel. People are free to do their own independent legal research and find out exactly what the position of the law is and what they feel should be. But I will just give my own take which is my personal opinion. I don't have a monopoly on knowledge, but my take is a political in the sense that it is not based on political leanings. I just speak on the law, on what I believe is the law, what I believe is right, what my conscience tells me is right and the right thing to do. Now, I know we have a society, predominantly Gambians, where it has to be their own way. People are happy with you when you speak in a way and manner that favors their ideology, favors their, their tempo, favors what it is that they seek to gain or achieve, their own political leanings. And you're seen as a friend, and once you go against this, you're seen as a foe. They want you to always speak in a way and manner that is consistent with what they like, what they want to hear. I am not such a person, I don't have time for all of that, rubbish, basically. I just speak my mind. Now, you can go and insult, you can go and fabricate, that's entirely your business. I'm not bothered about those things. And if you know me, I'm more moved by these things, So, basically, that is what we're going to do. Now, the first, I'm trying to think. I'm gonna pick your mind. I'm gonna get. I want this to be as engaging as possible. So, I'm going to ask. So now, as I said, we're going to talk about 3 topics here. Let me write it down so I don't forget. So, topic one is the issue with. No, I'm just giving the 3 topics. It doesn't mean 1, 2, and 3 is going to come in that chronological order. I'm going to send it back to you. You can explain. You could tell me by way of comments which of the topics you want me to deal with first, so that we could get it done. I'm trying to see if I can wrap up everything within the hour, and then we take it from there. So topic 1 would be the issue of the land. So allegations from both Darboe and Barrow. That's topic 1. Topic 2 would be UDP flag bearership issue and what really is all this notion of a winning candidate. Yeah. And then topic 3 is the term limit for the presidency and the take on Barrow's bid for a 3rd term. Yeah. Now, I'm going to send it back to you guys if you could tell me. So issue 1 is with regards to the allegations from both Darboe and Barrow. Issue 2 is with regards to the UDP flag bearership issue and what amounts to a winning candidate and everything that has to do with that. And then issue 3 is the term limit for the presidency. So if you guys can hear me clearly, let me know, 1. And 2, if you could just let me know what is it that you want me to do. Which topic would you want me to address first? I'll give you 3 minutes to decide on that by way of comments. I'm just going to go get something real quick. Okay. All right. I'm so sorry. I had to go pick up this so that I could go into the State Lands Act, which I wanted to reference. Yeah. So, what's the deal? Okay, I've missed the comments. Let me see if I could just. What was there? Start with the land issue. Start with. Okay. So let's start with the land issue. Now, so first and foremost, we need to establish, we need to understand, because there's a great misconception that's going on. So I hear a lot of people say, or a lot of people are misinterpreting or are using the terms interchangeably, and that is state land, state land. So we've heard a lot about, we've heard a lot of the term state land. And so on one side, you hear people saying that both President Barrow and Honorable Usainu lawyer Darboe should both return the state land that they took from the state. So we hear this coming out a lot, state land. Now, based on my own understanding and what I've seen on social media, I could tell that there is a misinformation, misunderstanding, and an error of interpretation when it comes to what a state land is and what a state property is. There has to be a distinction. So we need to understand that there is something that is called a state property, a bona fide property of the state. It belongs to the state. And then you have what you call state land. Now, I was trying to see how I'm going to coin this in a way to break it down so that people can understand. Every state land is not a state property. But every state property would amount or be part of a state land. Now, I'm talking about now for the purpose of this discussion. I'm going to restrict my conversation on, let's say, landed property. So, state properties can include a lot of things. It could include land. It could include physical things like buildings, like properties like like cars, like chairs, tables, furnitures at the ministries, in various ministries, the fleet of cars belonging to the state. These are state properties. These are state-owned properties. And, of course, we all know that there is a regulation, there is a strict criteria on how you dispose of state-owned properties. Now, on the other end, we have what we call, or what we refer to as state land. So, technically, every single land, every single landed area in that country, in any place, belongs to the state, in the sense that the state is actually the substantive custodian of the land. So everything, if you did or had an idea or read about law, law of the sea, it will tell you that there are certain things that are just part of a country, the airspace, the land beneath, the ocean, the sea. It will tell you the amount of the nautical miles that would be deemed as internal waters. I think it was 200 nautical. I'm not sure. I've not read these things in a while, but if my memory serves me right, I think it's 200 nautical miles from the shore to the ocean is known as your internal waters, and then from 200 nautical miles to a certain extent is known as your territorial waters, and then you have the deep sea and so on and so forth. And the same thing is done when you calculate the air. So substantively, every single land belongs to the state. Every single land. And that is why you have two regimes. So, for example, if you look at the State Lands Act, it tells you So for you have what you call a leasehold land, and then you have freehold land. So a leasehold land is usually it is owned by the person. So most of the time, if you see a person selling a leasehold land, you would see them making an application for ministerial consent. What ministerial consent that process involves is just asking permission from the minister, from the authority, the authority and of the state that is responsible for such issues, and in this capacity would be the minister of lands. So you would see people saying, "Oh, I'm selling a property, the Majais from a property," but then, "Oh, I have to wait. I have to have you have to have ministerial consent to sell lease land," and that is basically, although it is just really it is just rubber stamp, because most of the time you have lease of that property. Most of the time it's 99 years. I think that's what the act says. For a Gambian, the lease should be 99 years, and for a non-Gambian, it should be 25 years. So where a non-Gambian makes an application, there are two forms in the Lands Act, which could be found in the schedule to the Lands Act, and one, when a Gambian applies for a lease land, and that is like, so for example, Fajara, let's talk about Fajara. Fajara, if most people don't know, most of the landed area in Fajara was given to civil servants who were working at the time. So my mother had a property in Fajara, or has whatever, a property in Fajara that she was entitled to. She was given as a civil servant, and there are criteria that should be met when you're giving this land. I will look at the law and I will tell you the main criteria, but I'll just do it off head. So for example, when you're giving this land, I think within a year or two, you need to apply for a development permit from the Ministry of Land, and then you have other things like a fencing permit, and then you have to develop this property within a particular point in time. I think most times it was 3 years at the time. So if you can't develop it and things like that, because that's part of the covenant, it's part of the lease, then the land can be taken away from you. But before this land is taken away from you, there are procedures, there are criteria that must be met. Now, the misconception, I saw the press release from the Ministry of Land saying that the minister or the Ministry of Lands is the authority responsible of every single land in the country, and therefore they can reassign that land to anybody. Well, no, that is wrong. That is absolutely wrong. That's false. That's false. That is not true. That is not true. There is nowhere in the law where it provides for a blanket authority where the minister can just reallocate. That doesn't even make sense. It defies logic, because what that means is you can sit in your house in Kotu, and just because you've been allocated that property by the government, then the minister can just say, "Hey, hello, good afternoon. I am taking this land away from you, and I'm going to give it to Mr. X." That defies logic. So most of the time, when you look at the law, some things are just logic. You don't really need to know the substantive law or the substantive reasoning behind the law. It is just logic. The minister cannot have that line. In a democratic society, that doesn't happen. It doesn't work. The law is there to protect, and every single person has an absolute enjoyment to their rights of owning a property and the property that they own. So the press release where it states that all land allocations and things like that is under the purview of the ministry, and that the ministry can just give away a land or re-enter a land or reallocate a land. No, that is not true. That is not what the law states. The law has set a very strict criteria under which the Minister of Land can re-enter a land, can take, when I say re-entry, like take a land, or reallocation, take land that has been allocated to a particular person and give it to a particular another person. So the minister can't the Lord would never ever give that right to a minister or to anybody or to any authority in the Ministry of Land to just pick up land. So that means if that was the case, then all of us would be sitting on eggshells, because it means my land in Gambia, your land in Gambia, your mother's property, your parents' property, your father's property can just be repossessed, can just be taken and given to the state and given to somebody else. No, that is not what the law says. So that is not possible. It doesn't make sense. It defies logic. So that is not true. The minister does not have that power. Yes, the minister has power to re-enter, but the covenant is specific. There must have been a breach of the covenant of the terms of that lease. There must have been a breach, and then you are given notice. And if the law says that the minister can't just even take it, they would have to write to you. First, I think it's they give you a letter of intent, then a notice to stop. So they would give you a notice to stop development, a notice to enter that property and things like that. And it's a whole legal process of actually taking that land back away from you. So going back to the substantive topic, we need to understand that there is a distinction. So whilst every single land in that country belongs to the state, there is what we call state land, which falls under state property. State property. So the issue with Lawyer Darboe and people saying that, okay, Lawyer Darboe has to return state land, that is false. Lawyer Darboe's family have not taken any state land that belongs to the state. So this is difficult to qualify. So I want to make you understand. So a state land, so every land that's there in Gambia belongs to the state. So your house, your home, wherever you are in Gambia. So for example, there are situations, there are circumstances. If people who are aware, people who live in Banjul, when the Gambia Ports Authority decided they had to expand the port, they had to compensate people that were living around that Afdai area, around that port, and take that land. These are things where these are the exceptions. But then you see it is not blanket, because the state would have to compensate the individual for that land that they take in. So technically you see that every land would ordinarily belong to the state. Where the state feels that there is a need for the greater public good, public interest would always come first over individual interest. But that public interest, you cannot take one land from Melville and give it to Isatu. That is not looking at the public interest. Why would you take my land, Melville's land, if Melville has fulfilled all the criteria there that the State Lands Act have laid down, and then you just take the land from Melville and then you give it to Isatu? You know that doesn't make sense. However, if you take the land from Melville because the people in Banjul community, they need a health center, and there is nowhere else where you can build a health center, but that health center is for the public good, is for the greater good of the public, because Melville will benefit from it, Melville's brother will benefit from it, Modu will benefit from it, that land can be repossessed. That land can be re-entered, that land can be reallocated, but the law says without due compensation to the actual owner that can show that they have title for that property. But substantively, what I want you to understand is that every land belongs to the state. However, there is something that is qualified as state land, in quote, that is a state property. So it is different. So Lawyer Darboe's daughter making an application to the state for a land given to her is not state land. It's not a state property. That is a land, that is a layout that is done all over. You had Fajara, you had Pipeline, you had Bakote, you had Kanifing. These are all state land. These are properties that the state had decided that, okay, we're going to help civil servants, we're going to help low-income earners, we're going to help this particular bracket of people to own properties. And these properties are given by way of a lease. So most of the time, like I said, the State Land Act states that if it's a Gambian, then the lease would be 99 years. If it is a non-Gambian, it is 25 years. So this is what they give. But it doesn't mean that person does not own that property, because you can tell that most of these people, in instances where they're in need or they want something, they can sell that property. Now, I saw a lot of people making arguments that, or if it's a land that's given to you, you can't sell it. That is false. That is not true. There is nowhere in the act where it says that you cannot sell that property. Yes, it's a lease. However, when you're selling that property, because it's a lease, because the covenants are specific, you would have to seek ministerial consent to sell the lease land. Now, if that land was freehold, which means it is not subject to a lease, you wouldn't need to go through the minister. So most of the properties in Banjul are leasehold lands, are freehold lands. So when you are selling a property in Banjul, you don't need to go and seek ministerial consent, because that is what you call, in land law, It is called oh God, what's the term? Fee. Okay. Sorry, I'll remember it as I get on. But what's the term now? But anyways, it just means that that particular land is owned by the individual perpetually. They have ultimate title, absolute title. They don't need to seek ministerial consent to sell the land. They don't need to seek ministerial consent to do certain things. They own it. And these properties you see is handed down from generation to generation. And they have it, they own it. Whilst the lease property, the lease land, you're giving 99 years for that lease. So most of the people that hold these leases would have a 99-year lease. But it does not mean within that 99 years, you cannot sell your property. You can sell the property because the property is yours. Substantively, all land belongs to the state, but that property is yours. Now, the distinction here, so people saying Lawyer Darboe should return state land, that is erroneous because Lawyer Darboe is not occupying state land. Now, let us flip the argument again. Now, I told you there was a distinction between a state land and what you call a state property. Now, the property that is being referred to, the Chief Justices, which was said was demarcated, was allocated to the judiciary for the residence of the Chief Justice or whatever it was, that is a state property. That is a state land substantively and in its truest form. That is a land that belongs to the state. That is not just a land that Melville owns that the state can come and say, no, that is purely a state property. That is the state owns that land. Now, for you to dispose of that land, it is very clear because that is state property. Now, a state property cannot be taken. The law is very clear. The state property cannot be taken and given to an individual. President Barrow is an individual. President Barrow is not the state. President Barrow is not public good. President Barrow is not taking that land for the benefit of the public. No, this is a state material. This is a state property that is taken from the state and is being allocated to an individual. That is the distinction between Lawyer Darboe's daughter and President Barrow. But the land that was given to President Barrow is not state land. It is state property. And therefore, if the minister wants to reallocate that land, the State Lands Act has set a proper criteria that should be followed. It should be met. It should be gazetted because it is a state property. If it is being sold, you have to follow GPPA guidelines, procurement guidelines, just like selling a car that belongs to the government, that belongs to the state. Because now think about it. If that state land, like the presser that came from the Ministry of Land to say that the Minister of Land can just reallocate land, it means the State House can now be sold, or the State House can be given to President Barrow and say, you know what, State House has been reassigned by the Minister of Lands and it is now given to President Barrow as his personal gift. And then we will reallocate, we will designate another area for the State House. Because that is state land. It is state property. I'll give you another example, common sense. The RVTH, I think it is now called something. RVTH is called, it was RVH, it is called something. Royal Victoria Teaching Hospital, something like that. Now, what the presser from the Ministry of Lands is suggesting, that is a state property. That state land is not like what I was referencing where I say every land belongs to the state. No, where the Royal Victoria Hospital is situated, where it sits is state property. It belongs to the state. It is part of the assets of the state. It is part of the things that belong to the state. Now, if the minister, going by the press release, can just re-enter that land, then you can might as well say that you could wake up tomorrow morning and RVH can be given to a Lebanese man to say that this is your property, take it, you own it, and then we will relocate RVTH. It doesn't make sense. It defies logic. That's not how the law operates. So there is a distinction. We need to understand that there's a distinction between a state land. Now, a land that has been allocated by the state for the judiciary. The judiciary is an arm of government. The judiciary is part of the state. The executive, the judiciary, the legislature, they make up the government. They make up the different arms of government. They make up the state. These are the state players. These are the state actors. These are the state actors. Now, a land that has been allocated to the Ministry of Justice, to the Ministry to the judiciary, cannot be reallocated at will by the Minister of Lands. He does not have those power. Now, let me make a disclaimer. When this was being done, it was not Ahmad Ba that was the minister. It was the previous minister, because I think this was done in 2020 or 2021. But the fact is, it is an illegal act. It is an illegal act because it is a state property. State property. So therefore, even where the state wanted to do away with this land, it cannot be that you would take a state property to give to one individual, because that would defeat the public good. That would defeat the public good. Now, that is the distinction between the land belonging to the land that is claimed that a lease was given to Lawyer Darboe's daughter, and the land that is designated for the office of the Chief Justice or the residence of the Chief Justice. That is state property. If the state wants to dispose of that, they would have to go through the GPPA guidelines, the GPPA tender. There has to be open bid, open tender, put it in the newspapers, people would bid. It has to follow GPPA guidelines because it is government property. It is state-owned property. Just like the government cannot just decide and sell a chair. The government cannot just decide and sell a car. These are all part and parcel of state properties. And that is the distinction. Now, what would happen is, by law, well, not by law, but most of the time we see that presidents have powers, the executive have powers and things like that. But you know what would happen? It would be like changing the name of the Gambia to the Islamic Republic of the Gambia. Because it was not done according to law, because it was not done legally, what happened? As soon as President Barrow came into power, as soon as the coalition government came into power, they got rid of that Islamic Republic. They did not have to go through the legal process to change the name of the country, because the initial change of name was illegal in the first place. So now, President Barrow, because he is the president and he has the power, can choose to go ahead and develop that property. But that property that has been reassigned to him, that is an illegal act. And that reassignment, to the extent of its illegality, is null and void. And therefore, what would happen is, anytime you have a change of government, they can take that land back with all its development and everything, because it would assume, the law would deem that that land was never given to President Barrow in the first place, because that's an illegal act. Now, the other thing is, let's get back now to the issue of Lawyer Darboe and the daughter. Now, it is we need to understand that democracy as we know it is premised on an enlightened nation. Now, Lawyer Darboe was president or vice president. Lawyer Darboe was a state minister. Now, let us ask ourselves the honest and truthful question. Now, I see a lot of people writing that the land must be returned. Lawyer Darboe must return the land. And for me, I find this very problematic. I find this very interesting, because the people that are saying that Lawyer Darboe must return the land are people that are constantly holding the government accountable and citing the 1997 Constitution, citing the law. How can Lawyer Darboe return a land that he is not the leaseor? He is not the one that made an application for the lease. The land does not belong to him. The land is not in his name. His daughter is above the age of 18, is a consenting adult, is a Gambian, went through the process of making an application to the state, and then you are telling Lawyer Darboe to return the land. It is devoid of logic. Lawyer Darboe was not assigned a land. It was Lawyer Darboe's daughter that was assigned a land. Is Lawyer Darboe's daughter equal to Lawyer Darboe? The answer is no. Lawyer Darboe's daughter is a Gambian, an individual, an independent person, has an independent mind, can make decisions on her own. She can choose to say, okay, Lawyer Darboe can advise and say, okay, with all the brouhaha that's going, just tell them you don't want the land, give it back. But the ultimate discretion, the ultimate decision would have to be done by Lawyer Darboe's daughter. And there has to be a specific distinction. that the land giving to lawyer Darboe's daughter is not a gift. It's not a gift. It is an entitlement that every single Gambian is entitled to. Now, I see people make the arguments that, oh, but she has money. It is irrelevant. It is irrelevant whether she has money or not. It is irrelevant whether she can afford to buy a land or not. Those are moral arguments. They are not legal arguments. Those are moral arguments. They are not legal arguments. And we cannot choose to make moral arguments when we want to rely on the law. It is impossible. She is a Gambian. Now, let's look at it. Let's flip this argument a little bit. Lawyer Darboe was already fired when the daughter got the lease. Now, two things is at play. And what I'm saying is what President Barrow actually said. Because President Barrow said, when they came to him and asked him if they can still go ahead and give that land to lawyer Darboe's daughter, he said, yes, let them go ahead and do what it takes. I want you to understand this. Now, who has the responsibility? Who can you say used influence? The only person that used influence in this regard would be President Barrow. The only person that used influence would be President Barrow. Because when President Barrow made that argument, what President Barrow was basically saying is that if you flip it again on the other side, is that if President Barrow had said to the minister, don't give lawyer Darboe's daughter the land, that land would not have been allocated. So this makes common sense. Let's argue honestly and sincerely. Lawyer Darboe did not influence the decision of that process. The only individual that influenced the decision of that process was President Barrow. And President Barrow said that when they came to him and they asked him, can we continue and give this land to lawyer Darboe's daughter? He said, yes, go ahead. So the only influence that we have over that land issue is President Barrow. It was not lawyer Darboe, because lawyer Darboe was already fired. Now, if you flip that argument, what if lawyer Darboe, the question that I expected most Gambians to ask, the question that I expected civil society to ask is, what would have happened if Adama Barrow had said, don't give her the land? Then it would mean that lawyer Darboe's daughter would not have gotten that land. And you know what that means? What that means is that the process would have been influenced by the decision or lack of decision, by the decision or omission of President Barrow. Now, the second question that needs to be asked is this, and this is what I expected activists, this is what I expected civil society to ask. Now, is it normal? Is it proper procedure? Is it upright, just, democratic, honest, transparent procedure for the Minister of Lands to go to the President and ask the President, can we give this person land? The honest truth is that is not the way it should be done. That was not a process that was done according to the terms, according to the Lands Act, because the act should be blind. It should be irrelevant whether it's lawyer Darboe's daughter. It should be irrelevant whether it is Melville's daughter. That should be irrelevant. It should be a transparent process that is an entitlement to every Gambian, irrespective of creed, irrespective of ethnicity, irrespective of political leaning, irrespective of social status. As long as the criteria that has been set forth in the Lands Act is followed to the letter, that is what it should be based on. There should have been no reason in a democratic society, in a transparent society, there should have been no reason whatsoever where the state minister, the Minister of Land, should go back to the President to ask whether land should be allocated to lawyer Darboe's daughter because there was an application on his desk. Because President Barrow, as the President of the Gambia, had no business in land allocation. And that's the honest truth. So the only influence I see is coming from President Barrow and is coming from the executive. It was not an influence of lawyer Darboe. Absolutely none. So that's the first thing I wanted to clear and make you understand. So the distinction is, and then let me go back to the second part. I saw people saying, oh, Lawyer Darboe already has a land allocated to him by the state. Of course, Lawyer Darboe lives on Kairaba Avenue. Yes, I read Femi Mahoney's comment, and this is what I was saying. Now, irrespective, Femi Mahoney, I think you would understand, and you would agree with me that Lawyer Darboe can advise. I like the choice of your words. He can advise not to. But does Lawyer Darboe have the ultimate say? No. They don't have the ultimate say. Lawyer Darboe does not have the ultimate say under her daughter. Her daughter is a Gambian, a bona fide Gambian. Her daughter has a right to make an application for anything in the Gambia that you, Femi Mahoney, can apply for, that I, Melville, can apply for, irrespective of the position that the father holds. Because the argument that is being made is that argument that pushes Gambians, that pushes public officials to steal. Because you are saying because his father is a minister, therefore they must have access to land. They must have the money. Where are they going to get the money? What is the salary of a government minister if they're true to themselves and they're honest? This ideology, this notion, this conversation that because her father was a state minister, that she should not, she should just go and buy land. You're basically saying that she has the money through the public office that her father holds. And that is the system that is operative in Gambia, which is even wrong. That is a flawed ideology. In fact, if you look at it in a different way, this shows that the person, the daughter, is a credible individual that did not want to rely on the position of her father to go and ask or to buy land, to take money from somewhere to buy land. She asked for the land. She made an application. Now, whose responsibility? Who did she make the application to? She made an application to the state, the executive branch. They could have said no. They could have said yes. They were the issuing authority. How can you blame? Was Lawyer Darboe? If Lawyer Darboe was part of the executive, you could give it a little bit of leaning. You could give it a little bit of leaning. You could say her father was part of the executive. Her father was part of the decision-making authority. Even that would be far-fetched. But the fact is, her father was not in government at the time. Her father was already fired. Thank you, Femi Mahoney. Thank you for agreeing with me. That means a lot to me that you have agreed with me and you have seen my argument. Because irrespective of whatever is happening, the mere fact, what is problematic is the fact that you are told that somebody, a Gambian, made an application for land and that got to the desk of the president. That shouldn't happen. The president has no business with land allocation. There has a criteria. There are regulations, there are rules, there are internal ministerial policies that are there that should be followed to the letter. The law should be blind, irrespective of who comes before it. As long as they come with clean hands, as long as it was done in the right way, then that land, that issue should not have gotten to the desk of President Barrow. It should have been done fairly squarely. And let me go before I forget. Now, the issue that Darboe has land, Darboe's this, no. That is not what the law states. The law does not say that land allocation must be within one family. No, it does not say that. So civil society or the people that are advancing such should know what the law is and should depend on the law. Because when the executive goes against the law, they are quick to cite the 1997 Constitution. They are quick to cite the law. They are quick to cite an act. Go back to the State Lands Act. It has nothing to do with family. It's got to do with an individual. Having capacity, having attained the age of 18 years, the regulations are there. Has the capability to develop the land, is a Gambian, it's all there. It's all there. Some of the people that are talking, some of the people that are speaking, they benefited from state land. The land that they're saying they own in Pipeline and in Fajara and stuff, how did their parents got those lands? Their parents didn't buy those lands. Those were state allocations. Do you know how Bakote came into being, into existence? Do you know how Brusubi came into existence? Do you know how Fajara came into existence? Do you know how Kanifing came into existence? Some of you that are boasting of owning this property, oh, this is my sweat, oh, my parents gave it to me. No, these were state allocated land. They were state allocated properties. State allocated property. So this argument needs to be set aside. And we need to have a declared distinction The land the land belonging to the Chief Justice that has been reassigned to President Barrow, it is state property. It cannot be done. The minister does not have that power. President Barrow, as the president, does not have the power to take state property and convert it for his own personal use. That's the fact. That's the fact. Now, does this have to do with me having something against NPP, which they would say, or President Barrow? No, but that is the law. And I'm sure if President Barrow was explained to and he was told the law, he would adhere to the law. That is the law. I don't know how to do this because I have some provisions of the Land Act. But I think because of time, what I'll do is I'll write an article on everything that I'm saying, and so I'll summarize it, and then I'll delve into the State Lands Act, and I will put the particular provision so people understand and get an understanding. So this notion that, this is state land. No. There has to be a distinction between a state property. We need to know what a state property is. And then we need to understand what state land is. One belongs to the state. One is it's a vested interest of the state. The state have vested interest and rights over it. It is their property. It belongs to them. And the law is clear how it must be disposed of. Whilst the other is different. That is a person. If lawyer Darboe decides, okay, I can talk to my daughter Fender and she can return the land, that is their business. But the buck stops at Fender. We need to understand. Because Barack Obama is the president of America, he can afford to pay Sasha and whatever her daughter's name's tuition, does not mean they will not be eligible for scholarships. If they do well, if they have grades that would warrant them to have scholarship, they will have it. You cannot come and make the argument, but there are poor people that cannot afford a scholarship, so why should they be given a scholarship? No, that is not how democracy works. We are fighting every day for democracy. We want to expound. We want to talk about democracy. And I enjoy the discourse. I mean, I saw a message from Keba Sise now talking about morality. You see, it's so easy when people are pushed to the wall, when people are put in a position where they have to look at the Lord, and they will tell you, but morality is also part of it. If we want to talk about morality, there will not be a leader standing in Gambia. Most of us, most of the leaders, if we want to talk about moral issues, even us, how many times do we go to Gambia and get things? You want a passport, you want something in line. How many times do you go? That is not illegal, but you jump the queue. You jump the queue because you know somebody at immigration. You go to the hospital, you jump the queue because you know somebody that can get you quicker and put you faster in the line. You go to the airport. You have people that you have called that I'm arriving in Banjul at 2 a.m. They meet you at the airport. They help you. They clear your stuff. You go through the ranks. You go through the line in a very fast and exponential way. That is morality. Why didn't you go through the line? That is using your advantage. That is using your positioning. That's using your wealth, your social status, your connection to put you ahead of the other at the disadvantage of the ordinary person. So we need to understand that. So that's issue one. Issue one. Now, you could be unhappy and you could be upset. But the fact is, that land that has been re-entered and reallocated to President Barrow is an illegal act. That is a state property. And where the state wants to dispose of that property, they should take that property. It should follow GPPA guidelines. It should follow strict procurement guidelines. It should be an open tender, open bid, and that property should be sold and the money put into the coffers of the state. You cannot divert. You cannot circumvent the law. You cannot take that property and re-enter it and give it to one sole individual. That is an illegal act. And from now till doomsday, that property, in the face of the law, would still be and belong to the state. So that is very clear. So now let's move to the second issue. I don't know if I should deal with the UDP flag bearership issue, or I should talk about the term limit for President Barrow. That's the super. I'll watch your comments and I'll see which one you want me to tackle first, and then we'll go on with that. I wanted to read you. I wanted to read term limit for the good of Gambian. Term limit. Now, okay. Term limit. Okay, let's do the term limit, and then we'll do the UDP flag bearership issue last. Now, term limit. Now, I see a lot of arguments. People are saying that President Barrow should not go for a third term. President Barrow should not go about for third term. Now, I find this statement very problematic, because the fact is, we have a law, we have a grandum, we have a solid law, we have a contract, we have an agenda, we have a book, a document that governs the life of every single person in that country. Now, as we are, the position we are now is that the 1997 Constitution does not have a term limit. Now, to say that President Barrow must not go for a third term is it's wrong. It's wrong, because what you're trying to do as well is to take away his rights as a Gambian. And this is why I said my conversation would be very not too good. Because when I talk about the land issue, I'm sure the UDP people will be happy with me. But then when I talk about the fact that nobody can tell President Barrow that he cannot run for a third term, then they would not be happy with me. But the fact is, you cannot tell President Barrow that he cannot run for third term, because it will make no sense. Now the argument would be, when lawyer Darboe made a public pronouncement to say that anybody that challenges or anybody that pushes for President Barrow to step down after 3 years, he would take the matter to the Supreme Court. He was not just speaking in isolation. He was speaking within the remit of the law. He was speaking within the provisions of the law, because he was recognizing the provision of the law, the positioning of the law, that President Barrow, as a bona fide Gambian, has a right to enjoy the full tenure of his presidency. And every other thing, any other person that comes and wants him to step down within that period would actually be going against the Constitution. It would have been an illegal act. I know there has been conversations where people have said, oh, it's a gentleman's agreement. You cannot have a gentleman's agreement. You cannot have an agreement that is outside the remit of the law. Because what would happen is, you cannot have a contract that is devoid of constitutional powers and provision. You cannot. Because the fact is that the contract would be unenforceable. You cannot enforce it. The Constitution of the 1997 Constitution is very crystal clear. There is no term limit. Now, if Gambians want to have a term limit, they must first have a constitution that stipulates there should be term limit. Now, the conversation that I would expect the United Democratic Party to be having is to get, if you don't want Adama Barrow, you don't want President Barrow to have a third term, you have to speak to the Gambian people. You have to speak to the Gambian people. Sorry, Wally, it is irrelevant whether he signed the Good Governance of Africa. It is irrelevant. The Good Governance, these are international conventions. The fact is, the 1997 Constitution, it supersedes anything that the Gambia has signed and ratified. The Constitution of the Gambia is the supreme law. What President Barrow signed, what international covenant that was signed, cannot usurp the powers of the Constitution. It cannot take precedence over the dictates of the 1997 Constitution. If that's the case, then we don't need a constitution. Let us just go and ratify the international convention, sign international conventions, and come back. In fact, as we are speaking, I am not even sure, and I'm speaking to Wally based on your comment that I just read, I am not even sure whether that convention, even though it was signed by President Barrow, whether it was ratified. Go back and look at our laws. Signing an international convention is not the end all and be all. You could sign international conventions, but it has to be ratified. You have to take it to the parliament, take it to the National Assembly, get it ratified, and in fact, to some extent, some convention, you must domesticate it into your law. Now, that cannot usurp the powers of the 1997 Constitution as we have it. Saying that President Barrow cannot run for third term is almost like the statement made by the Bar Association, where they accuse President Barrow of treason by trying to change the election results, by trying to change the dictates of the Gambian people. If the Gambian people want to elect President Barrow to run for a third term, it is their God-given right under the 1997 Constitution. You cannot take it away from them. You cannot take it away from them. Anything short of that is you are telling the Gambian people that you cannot do what they want to do. The Gambian people have a right to elect their leaders. They have to. The Gambian people must have their inalienable rights to elect whoever they want. It is their inherent God-given right. Now, the business of the United Democratic Party is to sell your agenda, is to ensure that you sell your agenda not to the people that are already die-hard UDP members. Is to convince other people. Sorry, I need to stand up so this light can come on. It's gone off. Okay. Yeah. So that is, Wally, that is not true. That is false. That is a convention, and it would never take place. It would never usurp the powers of the 1997 Constitution. You can make as much noise as you want. You can say as much things as you want. But President Barrow, under the 1997 Constitution, has a right to run. And that's the legality. That's the honest truth. It is so sad because one thing I see problematic, and this was what I was talking about, when the law favors us, we want to respect the law. When the law goes against us, we don't want to respect the law. Yes, and that's the fact. So now when it goes against us, we want to talk about morality. But when the law is for us, we want to base it on the law. Now you want to talk about morality, you want to talk about, no, it's got nothing to do with morality. That is his God-given right as a Gambian. There is no term limit in our constitution as we speak. We had the opportunity to change the constitution. It was woefully failed. The National Assembly, the legislature, didn't pass that constitution, and every single person, political party was part of it. The UDP was part of it. The UDP was part of it. The NPP was part of it. And the fact is, we do not have a constitution that stipulates a term limit. And we need to show that we are law-abiding. We need to show that we believe in democracy. Democracy is not always nice. Democracy does not always go, and it does not always side with us. There are times when democracy can be very uncomfortable. But the ability, and this tells a lot about UDP as a government in waiting, if that is what they claim to be. It tells a lot. The ability to be able to swallow the hard pill. The ability to be able to take to swallow the humble pie, to eat the humble pie and accept the fact that this is the law. You cannot change the law. The law is the law. You cannot take the power. Even if President Barrow is the worst president that ever walked the face of the earth, it does not take away the fact that it is his constitutional right. It is his God-given constitutional right as a Gambian to run for office for as long as he wants until we change the constitution. Now, the question to be asked is, didn't we have a time and space when the constitution could have been amended? when the issue of term limit could have been sorted out? What did we do? We went to Parliament and we changed the age limit. We changed the age limit because that was what the political will was at the time. That was what suited our interest. That was what worked for us at the time. When we were changing the age limit, if we really wanted a situation where we could have had a term limit, there was political will at the time. There was no brouhaha between the NPP and UDP. There was no brouhaha between President Barrow and lawyer Darboe. That was the time, if we really wanted to have a term limit, that was the time. We had the wherewithal, we had the capacity, we had the political will, we had the unity, we had the united force. We could have changed it. But the fact is, what we did when we went to Parliament is we changed the age limit. Because at the time, that was what was convenient for us. That was what mattered to us. Because we did not see past what would have the future. We did not look into the future. We did not envisage that there would be a time when lawyer Darboe and Adama Barrow would not be together. We did not think about that. We did not think that there could have been the discord. We didn't think about that. What we thought about at that moment was, hey, you know what? We want to elect a vice president. We want to elect this person. It is only this person or nobody else. And we have to amend. An entire parliament sat. They amended the age limit to suit one particular individual. And that is the fact. The age limit was only amended to suit one particular individual. And we should ask ourselves the honest question, was that in the interest of the public? Was that in the interest of the public? The parliament was recalled. Parliament sat. Parliament had a session to change the age limit of one individual. What was the other thing they did? The MPs decided to put up a bill whereby they amended the fact that when they lose their seat or the political party kicks them away or fires them, they would not lose their seat in Parliament. These were the things that was of interest to them. So today, it goes against them because democracy is messy. Because democracy is not all we want it to be. There are times it favors us, but there are times that it goes against us. And the fact is, we must be able, if not, we become dictators. If not, we become dictators. Because we feel that a particular leader is not performing as to what we want, we think we can change the dictates of the Constitution, or we can circumvent it, or we can reinvent or reinterpret it. That is dictatorial tendencies. That is what a dictator does. When things don't go well with them, they change it. If you are a government in waiting, and the UDP must come to power, the UDP cannot seem to be flouting the law. The UDP cannot be a dictator. The UDP cannot pride themselves on dictatorial pronouncement and tendencies. The fact is, the energy that is being directed at Adama Barrow, asking Adama Barrow not to run for third term, when that is his constitutional right under the 1997 Constitution, I believe those energies should be redirected to sell the agenda of the UDP to Gambians. Forget about the UDP die-hard support base. That is not what I'm talking about. That support base is solid. That support base is not going to change. But we must understand that that support base alone cannot elect a UDP government in the Gambia, and that is the fact. That is the fact. We need to understand that for a UDP government to come into power, you cannot continue to rely on the solid, unwavering support base of the UDP. The UDP must be able to brand itself across the length and breadth of Gambia. UDP cannot be seen to be an urban party. UDP cannot just win an election in KMC and Banjul and Brikama. UDP has to win an election across the length and breadth of the Gambia. That is the truth. And the energy that is being directed at things that we know is unconstitutional should be directed at things in a way and manner that could be to our advantage. The fact is, there is no law. There is no law anywhere that states that President Barrow cannot run for a third term. Forget about international conventions that the Gambia signed. It is not and cannot and will never take place of the 1997 Constitution, which is the grandum, which is the supreme law, according to Section 4 of the 1997 Constitution of the Gambia. So as UDP individuals, you must get to understand that sometimes in democratic society, the law will stand by you. But in other areas, it would go against you. The ability to be able to accept both with pride, dignity, and show political maturity tells about the type of government that you would form. So that's topic number 2. And now we come to the most contentious one, I think, and that is the UDP flag bearer issue. Now, we need to understand something. We need to understand something, and this needs to be absolutely very crystal clear. The UDP as a political party has got its internal rules and regulations. It has never been an issue whatsoever where flag bearership matters have taken such a contentious turn. But the fact is, the way I see it, I think what is going on in the UDP is quite sad and it is very problematic. And the fact is that most people do not want to stand by the truth, and most people do not want to offend. So basically, I think it is everybody's God-given right. Again, like I said, it's a democratic society. The UDP is a democratic party. So people would talk. People would speak about their intentions. But for me, in speaking about your intentions, it has to be measured. It has to be done in such a way that it will not dent the overall objective of the party. And secondly, I think this whole notion of a winning candidate is what is going to be, if not carefully and properly and strategically managed, is going to bring the downfall of the UDP. I don't believe this whole notion that it is only Talib Bensouda that can take on President Barrow and is the only winning candidate. I think that is a fallacy. I think that is a fallacy, and I think that is wrong. I think that is a misconception. I don't think that is placed on anything. It is based on nothing. There is no quantitative data. There is no statistical data. There is nothing to show that Talib is more of a winning candidate more than Yankuba Darboe of Brikama. There is nothing absolutely there, aside of the fact that it is political patronage. Political patronage of people of the same clan, of people who are friends, or people who have a particular belief. You need to. Because the fact is, to say that Talib is the only winning candidate is an insult. It's an insult. It's an affront to the very brilliant leaders, young people within the UDP political party. If Talib is a winning candidate, then Talib does not need the UDP to win an election. If Talib is a winning candidate, then Talib can go solo. Then Talib can run as an independent candidate and win an election if he is indeed that a winning candidate. And that is the truth. You cannot come into a political party that you are part of and then begin to have dictatorial tendencies where you believe that every person must look at things from your own vantage point of view. Just because you feel that Talib is good, is a good leader. He's demonstrated his leadership skills in KMC, does not mean that openly you should now begin to make other people feel insecure. I think that is wrong. For me, I do not even believe, and I will never subscribe to the fact that Lawyer Darboe is not a winning candidate. Who says Lawyer Darboe is not a winning candidate? Why would anybody say Lawyer Darboe is not a winning candidate? Because he did not win an election? Who says winning candidates are capable of winning an election? Who says that? What is the meaning of a winning candidate? The fact is, Talib Bensouda is an amazing gentleman. It's an amazing gentleman. But Talib Bensouda needs the backing of the United Democratic Party for him to be a winning candidate. He needs that. And we need to understand, for people that have been saying that Lawyer Darboe has been there forever and he's not won an election, it's so sad, because what you're basically telling me or telling others is that UDP was the only political party in the Gambia. UDP was not the only political party in the Gambia. So basically what you are saying is that all the other political parties never had a winning candidate. You want to tell me Halifa Sallah is not a winning candidate. You want to tell me Sidi Ajata is not a winning candidate. You want to tell me Mai Fati is not a winning candidate. Ahmad Ba is not a winning candidate. Because they have never won an election in the Gambia. So they are not winning candidates. But that is wrong in itself. Because that is not how democracy is premised. We have to show respect for the leadership of the United Democratic Party. And for me, I've said this before and I will say it again. I will say it again. To understand the dynamics of elections is one thing. To understand elections in Africa is another thing. But to understand the factors that go and make people become what you might term as winning candidates are things that could be looked at in a different light, and people will arrive at different conclusions. How many of you are sure that Lawyer Darboe never won an election under Jammeh? How many of you are sure that Lawyer Darboe never won an election under Jammeh? And the people today that are saying that Lawyer Darboe is not a winning candidate, you will all agree with me, if you were on the ground, if you were in Gambia, even on social media space, that President Barrow won the election, the coalition election, on the back of Lawyer Darboe. The agenda he sold, the policy he sold was, I am the son of Lawyer Darboe, and Lawyer Darboe has given me his endorsement. Except you are telling me that Gambians were so gullible to the fact that they elected President Barrow that they did not know against a Yahya Jammeh that they knew. But that was not the case. That was not the case. The fact is, if the United Democratic Party has got policies, they have got procedures, they've got rules and regulations. If you feel that Talib Ahmed Bensouda is a winning candidate, and to be honest, I do feel that Talib has what it takes. Talib has what it takes to be president. But what I cannot be convinced of is that Yankuba Darboe does not have what it takes to be president. I know people have made, assumptions that he's got a temper, he's got stuff. But you need to understand that having a temper and being a leader are completely two different things. Completely two different things. What I think is problematic is the fact that by and force, people are wanting, you see, this whole idea of Talib is a winning candidate is being forced on members of the UDP. And that in itself is autocratic. That in itself is dictatorial. What I expect the camp that believe that Talib is a winning candidate to do is to sell Talib. Brand Talib. And when the time comes, the UDP has an open democratic process on the election of flag bearership. They have it. And if Talib believes he has what it takes, Yankuba Darboe believes he has what it takes, they can vie for these respective positions and they can win. Now, let me give an example. When you had the coalition Congress, Adama Barrow was not the most qualified. When you had the coalition Congress, Adama Barrow was not the most well-known. Who in their right mind would have thought when they asked for a Congress that that Congress would have elected an unknown Adama Barrow against a well-known solid political figure like Khalifa Saleh? Who would have thought that? I bet you before that Congress, there were a lot of discussions. And people were saying that the reason why that Congress was held in the first place was because they wanted to have a democratic process whereby UDP was saying at that time that it was the largest political party and automatically the leadership of the coalition should come from them. But no, the coalition partners met and said and agreed that we will have a Congress. It does not matter if this political party is big. It does not matter if it's Henry Gomez's political party or my party or Ahmad Ba or whoever or OJ from PPP. We are going to have a Congress and we are going to have a democratic selection process. Nobody in their right mind would have imagined that that Congress would choose an unknown Adama Barrow over a well-known OJ Jallow, over a well-known Ahmad Ba, over a well-known Mai Fati, over a well-known, solidly grounded politician like Khalifa Saleh. The fact is, it was a democratic process and the process was held and people respected the process. If you believe that Talib is a winning candidate, that must be sold. That branding must be done. But you do not have to brand Talib at the expense of disrespecting Lawyer Darboe. You cannot brand Talib at the expense of bringing disunity within the UDP party. You cannot do that. Because at the end of the day, your winning candidate, as you are claiming, will not be able to win an election without the backing of the United Democratic Party support base. And I think it is very disheartening. It is very insulting and degrading, no matter how you want to have this conversation, but to just come out for a person that has sacrificed his entire life and career, a person that has gone to jail, a person that was in like on the streets of Banjul, a person that was subjected to all manner of vilification, when you and I were sat behind our keyboards in a very comfortable environment, and now you're saying that person is not a winning candidate. When did you know that that person is not a winning candidate? When did you know that person was not a winning candidate? How can you take a person that has never contested a national election and say that person is a winning candidate? What is your criteria? What statistical data do you have to say that Talib is a winning candidate over Darboe? That is not true. It is not true. And it is very painful to see the back and forth, the political ping pong that's going on in the UDP. It is very unfortunate. Talib is a very, very, very lovable, honest, beautiful. I love the man. I love the man. But what is happening is the way and manner by which people are going on about the agenda of Talib is making people to be cautious, because some of us don't like being forced to do things. I don't like somebody to force me to do anything. I don't like you to tell me that I don't have a mind of my own, that I don't have the ability to make my own choice. I don't want somebody to sit somewhere and tell me that by and force Talib is the only winnable candidate. If you tell me that, I will not support Talib, because I have a mind of my own. I have a mind of my own. I have a right to choose. I have a right to understand. I have a right to make choices. I have my own mindset. I have my intellectual capacity to think, my ability to make decisions. You don't have to tell me. You cannot come to the people that believe in Lawyer Darboe and tell them by and force they should not support Lawyer Darboe, they should support Talib. That is authoritarian. That is authoritarian. That is dictatorial. Because what that shows, if you were to give in the leadership of the United Democratic Party, you will become dictators. It would either be your way or nothing else. The rights of the people that feel that Lawyer Darboe is a winning candidate should be respected. The rights of the people that feel that Yankuba Darboe is a winning candidate should be respected. And the rights of the people that feel that Talib is a winning candidate should be respected as well. And together they must find a common ground within their political ideologies, within their political leaning, find an amicable, respectful, cordial common ground that would be to the advantage of the political party, so that whoever is chosen, regardless of their designation, regardless of the individual, but it would be to the advantage of the political party itself, and which is the UDP. You cannot, and I believe that the people that are doing this, they have an agenda to divide the UDP. And that is a solid and valid claim. You want to talk about democracy. You want to talk about democratic ideals and values, but you want to instill a candidate by and force and say Talib is a willing candidate. By and force, you must accept Talib. By and force, Lawyer Darboe must be set aside. No, that is wrong. That is wrong. It does not matter if you feel, if Lawyer Darboe is not a winning candidate, and the democratic people of UDP, the masses, feel that they want to elect an unwinning candidate, an unelectable candidate, it is their business. It is their God-given right to do so. One human being cannot change it. You cannot usurp the powers and minds of the masses of the UDP supporters because you feel a particular agenda would not work. It does not work like that. If that was the case, you know what? We could have said that Khalifa Saleh was the winning candidate, and that coalition should have been headed by Khalifa Saleh and nobody else. If the ideology, if the pronouncement that is being made that Talib is a winning candidate and it is the only candidate that can vie for the election against President Barrow, we might as well have just go to the State House and tell President Barrow, can you set aside? We want Khalifa Saleh to be president. We believe he has what it takes. We believe he's the person that can lead Gambia. We believe he will emancipate Gambia. Set aside. Go, sit down, go home, chill. We cannot do that because it would be against democratic ideals and processes. And democracy must be respected in totality. It must be respected holistically. We must embrace it. We must accept it, whether it goes to our advantage or not. The fact is, you cannot force Talib Bensouda on anyone. Talib has to sell. Talib has to sell his brand. Talib has to sell his brand. And I believe that what you're doing, it is deliberate. Because it is not to the advantage of Talib. Because I have spoken to people. I mean, and I'm not even going to mention names. I'm just going to talk for myself. I'm going to speak for myself. The fact that I have to sit down and watch somebody tell me that by and force I should support Talib because he's the only electable and winning candidate is making me not to do so. It's making me not to do so. And right now, if you had a Talib before me and you had a Yankuba Darboe before me, I will support Yankuba Darboe against Talib. And you ask me the question, is it because I dislike Talib and I like Yankuba? The answer would be no. The truth is I love Talib. But the fact that somebody is behind and somebody is making me feel that I don't have a right, I don't have a choice, that by and force I should go with Talib is repulsive to me. And that is what you guys are doing. The disrespect is too much. And the funny part, the irony is, it's like a clawback. You keep saying, no, but I'm not disrespecting the leadership. But that's exactly what you're doing in a very clandestine way. In a way that you feel that the unsuspecting people are all stupid and we're all idiots. Because what you're doing is disrespecting. Yes, you might say, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm speaking good about Lawyer Darboe, but underneath you're disrespecting the man. You're disrespecting the character of the man. You're disrespecting the personality of the man. That's what you're doing. You cannot force a candidate on anybody. UDP has democratic processes and they would be followed to the letter. They would be followed to the letter, come rain or shine. What happened when Talib was running for mayor? We all supported Talib. We all supported Talib. And even if you go to Talib, Talib would tell you, Mel supported me. But we need to do it responsibly. You cannot force Talib on every single person within the UDP and say by and force is either Talib or no, nothing at all. That's rubbish. That's absolute nonsense. You don't feed people in the UDP. You don't clothe them. You speak to people in a responsible manner. You talk to people in a responsible manner. And I think, and I've said this before, I think Talib needs to clear the air. Talib needs to come out and clear the air. If not, it would be to his detriment. It would be to his political disadvantage. He needs to come out and clear the air. He needs to disassociate himself with every such pronouncement that seeks to divide the party. I believe his silence is not helping. I believe his silence is not helping. Talib should come out and let the people know that, you know what, we have a democratic process. When the time comes for me to vie for the flag bearership, I will do so. And if the people believe in me, they will elect me. If the people believe in somebody else, they will elect somebody else. And the ability to respect the rights of the people is what makes a man and what makes a good leader. It was what makes a good leader. And if I was Lawyer Darboe, and the way things are going, the fact that you're telling a man that has sacrificed his blood and tears and sweat for that party, you're saying that he's not a winning candidate, that is the only reason why I would even continue to vie for that position. Where were you when that man was walking the streets of Gambia? Where were you when that man was being taken and beaten and being subjected to all manner of vilification, all degrading treatment? Where were you? And you feel you can just come and instill, I mean, come on. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. The agenda must be honest. The agenda must be honest. The agenda must be sincere. Yes, Talib is a winning candidate, but so are as various individuals within the United Democratic Party. And if you believe, and for me, that is my position. If you believe Talib is a winning candidate, then Talib does not need the United Democratic Party. Let Talib go solo. Let Talib go as an independent, vie for the position, and then you will begin to understand the strength and might of the UDP. And it's not helping because to a large extent, and this is what I feel, but I mean, I will speak to Talib personally. I will ask him because I can't say anything, or I would not think for him. But it seems to the unsuspecting mind that he is actually condoning and enjoying the discord that is going on. That is what it seems. Because if you don't, you would come out and stop it and say, you know what? These are things we could sort out internally. We could sort out internally. And, I mean, everything would go on smoothly. But I feel that the UDP has its processes. They have a constitution. They have a way and manner by which they have a manner by which they elect their leaders. They elect their flag bearer, and this would have to be respected. It will have to be respected. So that's my take on that. I don't want to, dwell too much on that bit. I've been here for a while, and I just think that the fact is UDP, the leader of the United Democratic Party, is Lawyer Hussein Darboe. When it comes to the issue of flag bearership, when the UDP decides to elect their flag bearer, they will do so. But you cannot force anyone. You cannot call a person and say that this is the only winning candidate. That's a fallacy. That in itself is not, I mean, you don't want a leader, or you don't want to follow a person that feels that I'm the only one that can do it. You're the only one that can do it. Abraham, no, I have not watched it, but you can send it to me. You can send it to me, but I have not watched it. The fact that a person feels that I'm the only one, or a group of persons feel that there's only one person that can lead, that is why we're even having problems in this in Africa, where one leader does not want to leave office because they feel that the only person that can do it, they're the only person that can get the job done. What happens in America? America has got what 52, 55, or how many presidents, and the work is being done. You lead, your term is over, somebody else takes on. But this bit of feeling that I'm the only person that can lead, I'm the only person that can do this, I'm the only winning candidate, I'm the only person that can get it done, I'm the only person that can emancipate Gambia, that in itself does not demonstrate leadership potential. That in itself is problematic. So I think really, if the United Democratic Party and people, members of the United Democratic Party, really want to make progress, the time being spent on political bickering and, you know, going against each other, insulting each other. Yes, I respect the fact that everybody must have a candidate that they want to support. That is their God-given right. Support Talib. Sell Talib to the people. Sell Talib's agenda to the people. But don't go about doing it in a way and manner that is detrimental to the party. Don't do that. And yes, everybody can speak. Everybody have a right to speak. Everybody can lean behind being a Democrat. Everybody can lean behind, oh, I will speak my mind. I will say this. That's my conscience. But the fact is, sometimes speaking your mind and speaking your conscience out in the open to the detriment of your party agenda is nonsense. It's nonsense. The fact is, we can have the conversation. It's a democratic society. People can choose who they want to lead them. Lawyer Darboe cannot say by force, I am the only person that is a winning candidate. Talib cannot say I'm the only person. Yankuba Darboe cannot say so. Lamin Sane cannot say so. Rohim Malik Low cannot say so. The UDP has a process, and the UDP must be able to follow its process, whether the heavens fall, and nothing and no individual should be able or can derail that process. So I thank you all for joining me. I wanted to just put my points out there. Again, like I always say, this is my opinion. You don't have to buy it. I don't have a monopoly on knowledge, but this is my take on this issue. And I'll leave it at that, and people can share the video, watch. If you find it interesting, learn, share it amongst your friends, but that is my take. And I will do a write-up where I will cite the relevant laws, especially with the State Lands Act, with regards to that issue, and also the 1997 Constitution, and with regards to term limits, where I believe absolutely President Barrow has a right to go for election. That is his God-given constitutional right, and no one, whatsoever your designation, should be able to say that the man cannot go for a third term. That is unconstitutional. It is problematic. It is not a person that's respecting democratic, ideals and processes. And I wish you all the best. And thank you very much for joining me. All right.